We will call the Planning and Zoning meeting to order for January 19th, 2022. Let the record show all members are present with our current roster, and we'd like to take a second here to welcome Ms. Val Decker to our commission. Welcome, Val. Moving on to the first item on our agenda this morning is the order of business. Mr. Hadley, is there any changes or corrections?
There are no changes, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Commissioners, any questions? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2 on our agenda this morning is the minutes of the previous session, which would have been December 15, 2022. Any corrections to those minutes or updates?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the minutes
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item on our action agenda this morning. Chairman and vice chairman appointment. Missed that for some reason on my. All right. I guess we need to look at for this year and next. I think it's a 2-year appointment, or is it a 1 year? 1 year?
Yep, one.
So we need to look at that appointment. So I would guess we could start with the vice chairman, and we can open nominations. I believe that's the process, right?
Yep.
Nominations are open. Anybody want to nominate anyone? Or?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bullinger as our vice chair.
One nomination. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we will cease nominations and go to a vote. All those in favor of Scott Bullinger being the vice chair for 2022, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion. I'll
Motion,
abstain. I think.
motion carries. All right, we will open the nominations for the chairman for 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I'd nominate Jason Frederick to serve as the chairman.
Any additional nominations? Don't be afraid to speak up. Hearing none, we will close nominations. Guess we would need a motion probably.
Move to cease nominations and cast a ballot for Jason Frederick to serve as chair.
Do we have a second?
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, I guess that takes care of that. No changes for next year. All right, we'll move into the second item on our agenda this morning. It's a special use permit. This is to consider a request for a special use permit SUP-001-22 for expansion of an existing parking lot previously approved by a SUP for DSU Heritage Foundation. The vacant 0.92 acre site is described as Lot 7 through 11, west 72 feet, Lot 12, Block 37, Young 7th Edition, with an address of 230 8th Avenue West within the city of Dickinson, Stark County. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular site was heard and approved back in 2004, I believe, and for the existing foundation and parking lot. There hasn't been any improvements or changes from that time, and they're asking to expand the parking lot to the south, which is currently a couple of vacant lots. It's kind of a gravelly, grassy area adjacent to Second there. They're in the process, they're going to remove and replace all the sidewalks, put new approaches in, have a parking lot, do some landscaping, probably some decorative lighting as well. This entire site pretty much takes up that block facing the university at this time. There hasn't been any comments from any of the public on this. The applicant is here, and I believe would like to address the commission if you have any questions, but staff would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hadley. Mr. Orton, would you like to? State your name for the record, please.
Ty Orton, Executive Director of the DSU Heritage Foundation. This vacant lot has been there and kind of an eyesore in the community for quite a while. And we're just trying to expand that for parking, keep our parking off of the street mainly because we have having a lot of community events actually there for meetings and other type of items, plus all of our students that come over for scholarships and everything. So we really want to expand this so that it takes it from 10 parking spots to around 30 to 35.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Orton? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so being this is a special use permit, we would have a public hearing, I believe. So at this time, we will open the public hearing regarding this special use permit. If anybody in the public or online can dial into 701-456-7006 if they have any comments or concerns.
There is currently one person in the conference.
Anyone online or in the audience that has any comments or concerns regarding this special use permit for the Dickinson Heritage Foundation? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Mr. Chair, I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the petition for SUP 001-22 for the DSU Heritage Foundation for site and parking enlargement subject to the conditions above and items listed in Attachment A as meeting all the requirements of the City of Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we will move on to item 3 this morning. This is to consider a rezone REZ-001-22 for a zone change from R2 medium density residential to R3 high density residential for 0.97 acres described as Lot 4 less 20.91 feet in Lot 5, Block 3 in North Industries First Edition. City of Dickinson, Starr County, North Dakota. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item 3 and 4 are tied together, obviously, with the same owner and same property. This zone change would allow the applicant to apply for the special use permit that's listed below it. There hasn't been any comments from the public. I know that code enforcement, they're here. They've had a long-running dialogue, and so have I, with the property owner to the east, who had some concerns with the existing use of that lot. That existing use of the lot, I think they put on notice that they couldn't use it for commercial storage, trailer storage and whatnot, and so the option or the solution for that was to change the zoning. The owner decided to change the zoning and apply for a special use permit for storage. So that's where we are there, and I don't know, Blaine, if you want to, is there anything to add to that? No.
Getting some feedback here. Nothing from, okay. I do not see the applicant here either, so.
Obviously, the rezoning request doesn't have any conditions of approval. It's changing it from R2 to R3. North of the site is a transmission location. South is part of the Lyons subdivision, and east is part of College, not College, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Large acre lot subdivision to the east. There's only one neighbor, I think, that's deeply impacted by this particular site.
Maybe, maybe the applicant's online. Is the applicant online regarding this zone change?
Yes, I do. We are the neighbor to the east.
Okay, okay, we will open the public hearing in a second. I'll get back to you here 1 second, okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, considering this is a zoning change, we will have a public hearing regarding this. So if there's anybody in the public or online that has any comments or concerns regarding this zoning change, please step up to the podium or contact us at 456-7006. Okay.
Step up to the podium or contact us at 456-7006.
Okay, can you please state your name and,
This is Laura and Gary Mars, and we are that neighbor to the east.
okay? Did you have any comments regarding this zoning change?
Yes, we have some questions about the garages for storage that are going to go there.
Okay. What are your questions?
Well, what direction are they going to be facing in the traffic? And will there be a fence? Well, what direction?
Okay, all we're going through right now at this moment is the zoning change. That would be part of the special use permit when that comes through to the planning and zoning, which is, I believe, our next item, correct?
That would be part of the special use permit when that comes through to the planning and zoning, which is, I believe, our next item, correct?
Is the rezoning for both lots?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Planning and zoning, which is, I believe, our next item, correct?
Is the rezoning for both lots?
Yes.
And is the garages in the next special permit for both lots, for garages on both lots?
Yes, it takes up both sites.
Special permit for both. So we just need to hang on till the next item on the agenda?
If you don't mind, yes, unless you have a comment on it going from R2 to R3, this particular request is just for that.
Yes, unless you have a comment on it going from our.
Okay. So will the zoning get approved before we get a chance to say something?
Well, you can say something now regarding the zoning if you would like. It's just, the next item is the special use permit to allow the storage units.
Well, we don't oppose the garages, but the R3 zoning kind of scares us. We don't want an apartment complex directly behind us.
Yeah, I guess the R3 zoning, yes, would allow a more multifamily type development, but we're following this up with a special use permit for a storage facility. So that is what their solution is, and that's what their current term plan is to build that storage unit.
Yeah, we're okay with the storage garages. I guess I wanted to know that that's what's going to go there and not an apartment complex.
Well, if it goes through this process for the zone change and that's approved, and then the special use permit is approved, that's what they'll be doing. If they decide they don't want to do that, then they would have to go through whatever process to build something else.
Okay. So should I just hang on for the next agenda then to answer my question?
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing regarding the special use permit also, so that'll be coming up on the next item.
Okay, so I should just call back in again?
You can just stay on the line.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else in the public or online that has any comments or concern regarding this zoning change? Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Hadley, Since the applicant is not present,
Is there one question on lot 4, why is it less than 20.91 feet? What's the reason for that?
They sold it to the substation, I believe, or adjacent property owner.
Because that's on the south side, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, the other side, sorry. They sold that 20 feet off
Okay.
Mr.
a while
Chairman,
ago.
Mr. Hadley, is the applicant aware of all the conditions and accept?
They are, they've received it, I haven't any comment. They received it when you received your packet. So
Okay.
I'm assuming yes.
Okay.
But those conditions really apply to the next one.
anything else, commissioners? All right. What are your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of REZ-001-22, petition to rezone the subject property from R2 to R3 as being compliant with the City of Dickinson Comprehensive Plan, as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code, and also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, we will move on to the next item on our agenda this morning. Item 4 is a special use permit. This is to consider a special use permit SUP-002-22 for the development of enclosed residential type storage units. The vacant .97 acre site is described as Lot 4, less 20.91 feet, and Lot 5, Block 3, in North Industries First Edition, City of Dickinson, Stark County, North Dakota. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, this is a corresponding site, corresponding special use permit that would allow them to build a storage unit facility. You can see by the alignment there was an updated plan submitted in your packet that came in, and it faces west. The access is to the west. They will be required to meet the buffering and landscaping requirements as part of the site planning and building permit process. Haven't received any comments except for now, yes, obviously the adjacent property owners to the east are on the line. Staff would recommend approval as long as they meet the intent of the buffering and landscaping requirements and the conditions of approval.
Okay, looking at the site plan, so there would be no like garage doors or anything to the back of the buildings?
Right, it would be all indoor.
I mean, there would be no...
Face
and it
the west.
It faced west?
Yeah.
Okay.
U-shape to face the
Yeah.
west, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. All right, at this time, we will open the public hearing regarding this special use permit. If anybody in the public has any questions or concerns regarding the special use permit on this property, please step forward to the podium, or you can call into 456-7006. Mrs. Marsh, are you still online?
I'm still there.
Okay, the public hearing is now open for the special use permit. Did you have some questions or concerns?
What kind of fence is going to go up? What is buffering, and what are they talking about?
Mr. Hadley.
Buffering would be just area, landscape type area between you and them. And that can consist of a variety of things. They haven't distinguished exactly what they're going to put in there. It would have to go through our site planning and building permit process. It's a separation between you and them mostly, and it's supposed to be an aesthetically pleasing separation.
Okay. Well, we've put up with that lot back there for 8 or 9 years now. I've never asked for a pile of money. The only thing I've ever asked for was a privacy fence. And that's all I want. I'm tired of the garbage blowing in. I'm tired of the snow getting pushed into our trees. The spraying that happens. I guess I just want to know what's going to happen, and if I can have my privacy fence.
The site plan that they've submitted, the building, it'd be a storage building with all the garage doors facing to the west. So the back of the building would be facing you guys. There would be no access to the back of the building.
So the garages will go completely across the lot? There will be no driving in the back
No
of the garages?
According to the site plan we have, there would be no driving around the back at all.
No access.
No access.
The site plan showing a private access easement though, 33 feet.
Yeah, that's a road. Is that a road that's behind there?
It's in that plot. It was never
Built?
developed. There's also a bunch of utility easements that go through there.
Could you confirm what that strip of land is in between us?
Well, it's a private road easement that is part of the previous development, so that was probably put in there when your lots were approved.
Yeah, I think it showed like an alleyway.
But it says it's private, so it's not a public, so I don't know who actually owns it, but
Lot to the north.
I think RDO still owns it. But my problem is with that strip of land there, and if the garages don't go all the way to the end of the property line and there's area for someone to drive behind, we can't block that in any way because we're not directly on the property line with those garages.
well,
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, he can only go to the he's got to stay 20 feet back from his property line. I mean, he can't go any farther back, and that's what he's showing on here is the 20-foot setback.
So it's built right on the property.
Yeah, I didn't get a picture that shows me any of that in the mail. All I got was the rezoning notice. So I'm not looking at it. I don't see it. So can we request that a fence be put up to the end of the property to keep the public from the back of our property line?
I didn't understand that. They don't allow any outside storage, right? Outside storage.
The commission, just to answer that question first, the planning commission can add additional conditions if they think it's worthwhile for this particular site. Their buffer area is our buffer between that area and the storage units. Obviously, fences can be used as well.
So is that a yes or no? Can we request that?
Well, you can request. It would be up to the commission if they would agree to that. I'm trying to understand what you're looking, what the reason would be. I mean, if there's a building that's blocked.
Well, because if there's going to be storage units there, you're going to have the public coming and going in that lot, and that's directly.
Yeah, but there's no.
It's ours.
There's no access.
On strip there.
There's no access to the back though, at all, of the lot. You can't even drive back there.
Should there be any reason for anybody to come down that private access?
There wouldn't be, but they can. That's where the person can get in. They can drive right off of 40th by Rough Rider Electric substation and drive right back there.
Or what though?
And they also could drive right if they have storage units and there's an area open. If they're driving in there, I never got a copy of what is planned, so I guess maybe I don't know. But you're telling me he can't build the building all the way to the end of the lot.
Well, he has to stay 20 feet off the property line by building code.
So in that 20 feet, can there be a fence?
Yes.
Yeah. But that still doesn't stop anybody coming down the private road. I'm not, that's what
Well,
I'm trying to understand
it would help.
what the benefit is. Because there's going to be
It
no,
would
there's no access to the back of that lot.
Doesn't stop somebody from parking a bunch of stuff back there.
Right?
Wouldn't that violate the
That's been
conditions of
going
the
on
SUP,
for
though?
8 or 9 years, I guess.
Longer?
That was my original complaint.
The conditions of this.
And I just wanted something from you because I don't trust the owner. He's already lied to me. That's what started this whole process.
I mean, the conditions on the, in the special use permit do not allow anything out, any outside storage on the property. So if anything would be parked outside, he'd be in violation.
Okay, well, you've heard what I requested and had to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Anybody else have any questions or concerns? Mr. Dukart.
I just wanted to clarify that, Ms. Marsh, if she's still listening, that it's actually the screening standards are listed in our municipal code. So she could request a copy of those. And they do state the 6-foot opaque barrier in there. So, and I did see it proposed on the drawing that there was a 6-foot privacy fence in there. So just wanted to clarify that for you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dukart. Commissioners? Any other questions for the staff or? I guess, did I close the public hearing? I believe I did, yeah.
I believe, open it, yeah.
Seeing nobody else, we will close the public hearing now. And commissioners, anything else?
Mr. Dukart, you said there was a 6-foot, where was that at? Did I miss that somewhere?
There is something there, Scott, under major issues, says the applicant shall provide a fencing and screening for the site to separate storage units from all the adjacent uses. And you must have a drawing for their,
For the first one, yeah, the first one that was put out, yep. The second one they moved, it met the requirement for the 20 feet. And they're not, you know, if the commission wants them to put a fence in and desires that, then I would definitely say that, because I think their intent is just to provide that 20-foot buffer. So if there is a reason to include that. It would basically be adjacent to the easement, which they'd also have to watch because it's a private easement. They can't fence off. They can't stick a fence in an easement as well, so.
Mr. Dukart?
Commissioners, once again, to clarify, it's 3908006. It's actually screening standards. There's a combination of things they can do, and one of them is a 6-foot opaque barrier and or fence. So I didn't realize that that was the first or the initial drawing that I saw. I thought that was the one for the requested special use permit. But anyway, that's something that you can definitely put in there since it is in our screening standards.
What else would be opaque other than a fence, privacy fence?
12-foot building
I guess.
Slatted.
for 20 feet off the property line, plus we have that easement, which is what, another 30-some feet. So you've got almost 50 feet behind that building. And like I said, I know Ms. Marsh can see the drawing, but the one that we're looking at shows that building, one end of the lot all the way to the other end of the lot. I don't know what
I mean, the only,
the fence is.
I mean, maybe the only other condition I'd put in that there would be, I mean, could we say that there, go,
It looks like it's almost 90 feet from the edge of the easement
To the building,
to the property line to the east,
so 90 plus the.
including the easement, obviously.
yeah.
there's quite a separation there. I think that, you know, I'll just weigh in a little bit. I think that the issue with the property owner to the east, which I think she's had a valid concern in that, you know, if you pull it up on pictometry now, we could show you this, and it has a number of storage
Big semi-
containers and
semi-trailers,
trailers and
yeah.
whatnot. So, I mean, I think that she's been living with that, and I sympathize with that. I've talked to her about it a number of times. I think this is going to be a much cleaner solution for her as a neighbor, and still allows the property owner to utilize that property with some sort of a return. The ability that the people have to come to the storage units off of the west ingress, egress, access, and leave without really even being seen by the property owner to the east, I think is a great solution. What you will see is the building and then whatever screening is put up is really what's there. The easement itself appears to be tied to Rough Rider, and, you know, they'll have access. There could be equipment, there could be stuff going on back and forth through there. We don't really have control over that. So that easement itself, the maintenance of that easement of the grounds may not be obviously to the extent of her property or this person's property with the storage unit. So, you know, it's going to be a great improvement for the neighborhood. There might still be some issues with the maintenance of that easement.
My only concern is I don't want them to put overhead doors on that south side, and pretty soon it's a drive-through storage.
Right.
And they start using that private road to pull a camper through straight in, and
Yep.
so, I mean,
You could add a condition that states that no access, ingress, egress doors on the east side of the building shall be allowed.
or just a non-access, can we ask them to put a non-access across that back property line?
I think it'd be cleaner, just because it's a special use permit, to just put a condition that crafts what you don't want in there, myself, but
I mean,
Attorney Winko, do
What
you
do
have
you,
a...
I mean,
one
there
of-
should, no outside storage is already conditioned. I mean, do you guys have any problem with no access to the east side of the building? I mean,
How do you prevent that?
well, it would be part of their SUP, so I mean, if they put doors on the back and there was reports of them, people actually doing it, would be in violation of our SUP, so.
And we'd revoke you could revoke their special use permit, and that building would not be it would not be a storage structure anymore.
So no building access, not site access.
No, I think they can access the site, I just don't want them to put overheads on both sides, so you can have drive-through, and pretty soon that private road's getting used as another access point to the storage units, but.
I think you could easily craft a condition that basically said no garage doors on the north, east, or south side of the proposed structure would be allowed. Simple as that, I think. And then buildings and codes, as they issue a permit, that would be very clear. And if they wound up putting doors in any of those sides, they'd be in violation. Obviously, they wouldn't have a permit, but.
Yeah, the north is just the substation, so there's no way to access really from the north anyway, because there's a giant substation there, but.
You never know. 5 years from now, someone else might own it, and they might have that great idea. So, probably not a bad thing to have.
Why would we be concerned about doors on the north and south side?
Just to keep keep people away from using those sides, which obviously impedes on the properties to the east.
If we put that condition in there, it is U-shaped, so on parts of the north side there would be doors on there, I'm guessing, correct?
I don't think so.
Well, there'd be some doors
North side
facing
and south
north,
side?
but
There'd be doors
Yeah.
facing north, but not on the entire north side of the structure, so.
Right.
there could be some doors facing north in that one part.
Right.
But it would just,
On the north face of the structure.
Okay.
yeah, we'd have to say the north, east, and south face or something.
And basically that back side, the east side is one big, do I see any purpose to put a fence there? I mean, I don't know what the height is, I guess I didn't see that.
Well, I'd imagine the building's gonna be at least 16 feet
Yeah.
tall. I mean, if it's gonna be the 60-foot deep units, you're not gonna make it 10 feet tall, you know, so.
No.
So I'd imagine.
You'll definitely see it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but to put a 6-foot fence up against a 16-foot wall, I don't know really what the benefit would be.
You're almost better with some trees and
Agreed.
break it up.
And just to add what I can see from pictometry, it looks like a lot of those trailers that were parked there previously extended into that lot and with the easement that's adjacent to the property, and actually almost looks like maybe encroaches on their property a little bit. So I think when they develop this piece, there's going to be quite a bit more space between the back of the building and what is their property line. I think in her experience, maybe you don't understand where that actual property line is because of how they behave in this lot. It feels like it's right on top of them. So having that space there, I think Mr. Hadley said was trees might offer more of a buffer between the space as a 6-foot fence would.
Anything? I'm totally sure how this plan's gonna work very well, but there's gonna be a lot of dead space in those corners. So.
Or are those just long doors on the east side on the long part that goes all the way down?
I mean,
I can't imagine they'd have doors on the,
I mean,
yeah, you're going to,
they're like blind corners. I don't.
that one long storage.
Maybe. I guess that's not our concern. I mean,
Nope.
Well. I mean, I don't know if I have any issue if he has access on the north end because the substation's not going to care. But I would say the south and east, we would ask them to have no access.
Is there even room for access on the south?
Well, no, I mean,
They're showing trees on the
yeah, I mean, so there's got to be some setback there, but you got houses here, and like I said, you have houses here. Up here is a transformer. I mean, they're not going to care if somebody drives that way, but
Or if he puts up the fence, because he can give access. If those are being used, because we're saying now we think it's possible they wanted access from the north and on the east possibly. No. Because like you're saying, Jason, that's 60 foot deep.
yeah.
I'm guessing when the building permit comes, there's probably doors on both ends, both sides of that for storage facility.
Well, that's what my concern is, and you know, and I don't know this private access easement. I mean, whose is it?
Determine it's Rough Riders Power Company.
It appeared to be tied to Rough Rider. But I don't know. I don't know if who else.
But they could easily utilize that 20 feet of driveway for those 50
You would, I mean, if you didn't go off the property, you would never be able to make the turn. But
And that's where maybe the fence idea comes in. Maybe it needs to be there in the event they decide that they want access to these, unless we're going to eliminate that option too. Does that make sense?
I mean-
Sense.
On the buffering, I think it's a good idea on the street side, on the south side, Mr. Frederick said, and on the east side. You know, the buffering requirements aren't really appropriate on the other side, just because there's a whole lot of other things to buffer that's not going to buffer.
Right.
And if they have some sort of a walking access to that, I guess that would work, but, or a man door into those storage units, you probably could buy with that, on that north side. I don't know if that helps or not, but I wish the applicant was here, because then he could address that. But what we have for a plan is what you see, so, and what we approve with the special use permit is actually what you see, which is the plan, how you condition it and amend it.
Commissioners, just to clarify, that strip of property to the east of the substation is owned by Rough Rider. The piece of property to the east of this parcel looks like it's owned by the same group that owns Lyons subdivision. So it's Profit Limited Partnership.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be highly beneficial if the developer was here, so we'd have a little better idea. If we approve this and with the conditions that there's no access doors on the east, north, south, and that doesn't work for them, what's their process? Do they have to come back and amend the special use permit?
They could come back and ask you to reconsider your recommendation. The fact that this has a zone change tied to it, it has 2 readings at the city commission, and that could be prolonged, where if there were questions and if they had an issue that they wanted to come back and address to you, we could meet the next planning commission meeting and address it then. Ms. Winko, I don't think there's a problem with that, is there? No?
I mean, I understand the residents' concern. If this is owned by Lyons, and there's nothing stopping this developer from getting some kind of, either purchasing or getting some kind of easement, and then pretty soon, they're accessing the storage units from behind here.
I think if it's a concern that the board concurs on, I think it should just become a condition of approval. Because obviously that's been an issue, and obviously that improvement of that private access isn't going to be up to any kind of a standard whatsoever, so it'll wind up being kind of a mud bog access to the back of a storage unit, which I don't know that we want to promote. So I guess I would suggest that you look at having no access, no doors on the east and south sides, as Chairman Frederick suggested, and carry that landscaping around on the east side would be my suggestion to amend it. And they should be able to make this project work based on their plan.
If that doesn't work, they can come back, I guess. I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of SUP 001-22, the petition to issue a special use permit with the above listed conditions for the subject property as being compliant with the City of Dickinson Comprehensive Plan, as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code, and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare, with the following additional requirements: no access on the east and south side of the building, and no doors on the east and south side, or no access to the east and no doors on the east and south side of the unit. and also continuing the landscaping around to the east side.
Will we have any issue in regards to the fire department for a fire escape for locked doors out of the back of the?
Yeah, maybe we should say overhead doors. You might have to have some locked doors in the back.
For the fire department.
Overhead doors?
Yes, let's go with overhead doors on that, amended. Walk-through doors would be approved.
Okay. So a motion, do we have a second with those conditions?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that looks like that is all of our action items for this morning. Our next item would be any issues of public concern that are not on our agenda. If there's anybody in the public or online at 456-7006 that have any questions or concerns that are not on our agenda this morning, please step forward. We have such a large audience today.
Currently empty. You will hear silence or music on hold when connected.
Anyone in the public with any concerns not on the agenda? Seeing or hearing none, we will close that portion of our agenda. Move on to item 5. Items not on the agenda. Item 5 would be an ETZ update. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you there, up in front of the chairman, there's a map. The ETZ committee met and finalized the boundaries. And so if you'd like to look at that, those of you that haven't.
Same one that's in the packet?
It is. It is. Sometimes it's easier to see it on a big one in front of you. But the next step is the city attorney and I will get together and work on a process and a strategy for moving forward with it at this time. But the group, I did thank the group. It was a good working group. We wound up going through things. We didn't have one argument, and we had some good discussion and some good compromises on both sides. And so I think we wound up with a pretty good solution to it. So we'll start moving that forward. You will be having a hearing on that. City Commission will be as well. And then Stephen will actively be working with me on a zoning transition process that changes the zoning in on those parcels in the county to city zoning, as we did, if you remember, if you were here in 2017, I believe we did that for the last TCZ. So we'll try to do it a little more timely this time. So when we actually approve it, we'll turn around and do it that same year. So. Other than that, I don't know if you have any questions on it. Like I said, there is a map up there if you want to take a look at it. If you don't see it as well on your screen, that's great. But we're going to be moving forward on that. So can't tell you exactly when that's going to be on your next agenda, but it will be coming soon.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Hadley. Next item would be our work session items for this morning. Updates to the sign ordinance. Looks like Mr. Josephson's going to handle that today.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Friedrich. Commissioners, Steve Josephson and Mr. Hadley will be assisting in this also. What you have before you are some proposed changes to the sign ordinance. Sign ordinance was revised back in 2013, and since that time, the field changes. There are changes being made in terms of the types of signs. I'd looked at different ordinances, looked at model ordinances, and also looked at the ordinance for the city of Bismarck, and used incorporated a number of their changes into this. The other thing that we added into here was a section about downtown signs, especially sidewalk signs, and also that signs in the downtown area would be somewhat consistent with the buildings with the buildings in the area and the scale, and also some more clarity in terms of the sandwich signs, the sidewalk signs that are put down. One of the things that's also been added in here was a concern of the city commission about election signs that they were listed as temporary signs and had to be removed within a certain period of time. And I know city commission had some issues with that, and so that time limit has been removed. It's basically said that any signs would be governed by the North Dakota Century Code and for election signs, and the only thing in the Century Code that governs that has to do with signs along state roads. So among some of the things are the purpose, proposing changes to the updating the purpose, definition of terms, revisions to prohibited signs, and you might see those and think, okay, a sign that makes noise, a sign that that emits flames and so on. Yeah, maybe we haven't seen them here. I worked in a municipality that actually had a sign that emitted noise from it. The revisions to the temporary and civic signs, the one removes the time limit for political signs, clarifying language as to what a permitted sign is. And as I said, also clarifying what a projecting sign in terms of how far up it is in its clearance, and also a whole section on downtown sign standards and establishing an area within the downtown where these would apply. It's primarily within the downtown commercial zoning district and the area adjacent to it that's in that portion of the Renaissance zone that's downtown. We did, Planning Director Hadley and I did ask Blaine Ducard of the Building Department to review this with us, and they did. And so what you're seeing in front of you is what we've been working on. Planning Director Hadley has told me that the city administrator has taken an interest in downtown signage. I don't know if he's had a chance to review that section, that section yet. But anything that goes forward, we would certainly, because of his interest, we'd certainly want to get his input too. So we're just here. These are proposed changes, just to see if you had any questions or comments at this point, and what direction you wish to give the staff at this point.
Thanks, Stephen. Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Brian and I had a good long visit on the downtown sign standards, and his vision, and I totally agree with it, is that we need to up the standards a bit to where the signs that are going up are framed, they're a little more finished. There's been a kind of a number of signs that have gone up in the last number of years that are basically a plastic and lettering on it and whatnot. It doesn't look real permanent, and so these amendments that Stephen has worked on do address that. Mr. Winningham has those, and he and I have discussed it, and he is going to read it and comment, but I think we've kind of followed the lead of what he thought was a direction that we should go. So I'll work through that, and by the time we go to a public hearing to change this, I will have his feedback.
I mean, some of the questions I had, like real estate signs, when the house is for sale, you have a square footage size they have to, who's going to go out and enforce this? Are you going to go out with your tape measure and see if the Infinity real estate sign is less than 10 square feet or whatever you got on here? There's like multiple sizes. Some have them on a post, some have them on the ground. I get that we have to have some requirements, but at some point we're getting too far into this. We're putting stuff in here that nobody's ever going to enforce.
I think that was the idea of having code enforcement involved with it. If they have a concern with that, then I guess we'd like to hear that.
Well, yeah, I guess I would like to hear it, because, I mean, are we actually going to go measure every realtor sign? And if it's too big, then what? We're going to tell them they can't use it anymore?
I would say we within reason. If it's a 20-foot wide by 12-foot tall in the front yard, we're trying.
Well, I agree. I mean, yeah. But
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I totally agree with you. Generally, we get involved when there's a hazard. Political signs, realty signs, if it's creating a hazard, that's generally when we address the signage. A lot of the realtor signs are exempt, and they're usually a small sign, but like I said, everyone's getting creative. Everyone's grabbing that attention of the person driving by, so I believe we need something in there, but it should be something that we can enforce.
Mr. Schwint, do you have a concern? What's the, on the real estate sign, so if it was a 10 by 10?
Generally, it's the small ones that are 2 by 2. You're driving by it, you know what it is. If it's a development, those are different signs. They're allowed, I believe, 32 square feet. If you're developing lots, they put that sign out there. Some of the signs that are non-compliant currently, which I would agree with just briefly going through that, is the semi-trailers that are sitting out there on a lot for years at a time. They're unsightly, and I think those are the types of things that we should address and clean that up.
Thank you, Mr. Schwint. I think that the balance is, we all have seen some of the signs that we have currently that don't work well, and they don't portray probably the image that we want to portray as the city of Dickinson. And so, I think there might be a few loops. Obviously, there's always loops in every code and every sign code that's ever been written. But I think this is a good attempt at upping our standards a bit, but not upping it to the point where it's overzealous from the standpoint of overreaching from the city standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think we have tried to put together something that works with code enforcement, because they have the difficult job of when they find that 10 by 20 for sale by owner real estate sign in the front yard of your home. That's an issue. That probably isn't something we want to promote, and it's really not necessary. So it is a balance. So is there any other concerns with that, or does that help, Chairman Frederick, as far as explaining?
Just one other question. We've been doing this in a lot of these new ordinances, is changing this administration. It says city administrator is his designee, is administrator of this article. Okay. Do we have something that says who the city administrator designated to do all these? Is there some place you look and say, I'm going to take out a sign, who's the designee for this article?
I think the way that, to answer your question, Commissioner Frederick, is the way that that's structured is that allows flexibility for the city administrator to designate that person. So, we don't know, it could be building officials, it could be Mr. Hadley, it could be anyone, but it does allow us to make that determination in the moment if necessary.
According to the building department, handles all the permits. So, I'm just trying to understand, is there somewhere that says our city administrator has designated the administrator?
I don't believe there's any formal thing anywhere that says that. I think that that's what our code is there for, to make that determination. Obviously, if internally the staff and this commission feels that it should be someone else, or there's a better way to do it, I think that it should be addressed in this particular code section.
I don't have a problem with the language. I just think that he's not going to do it. I thought Mr. Winningham was going to look at every sign. Well, who is he designated to the sign?
I think that's a question internally for staff on who who that person is going to be. I mean, a lot of our city code does allow for the city administrator and the designee. If your recommendation is to simplify that and take him out of the equation and put it back to staff or, building and codes or planning and zoning or some other more practical department, I think that is something that can be considered, for sure.
When he's not even going to be involved in it in any.
And I totally agree, Mr. Frederick. Right now, Buildings and Codes reviews sign applications, approves them. If there's any major controversy or any large project type things that for enforcement, sometimes I'm involved with that. I was involved with billboards. I was involved with some other things in town, but typically Leonard and Steph.
I understand it's like a broad thing, but it just, I like clarity, and especially when it's ordinances, who the person is. I mean, do you appeal to him if you're not happy? I mean, that's what I don't understand. I mean, or do you go to variance?
Maybe they disagree with our determination on limit, where does it go down?
It's.
Or do you go to the city administrator?
No, you go through, there is a process.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, all appeals are, it would go through the variance through the building department.
391080 talks about there's an appeal or action, it goes to the Board of Adjustments.
Which that paperwork does go through the building department.
Are we going to be putting a lot of downtown signs in non-compliance by adoption?
Yes.
Well, or the other thing you can do is you can say, as of the date of this, anything after the date of this ordinance.
It's a little tough for any business having signs that are 40
Years, and now let's say they
repair it or something. Now it's out of code, and they tell them that they're going to do something different. So I would have an issue with that.
Mr. Chairman, in the past, I've been here a little while, the code used to include, depending on the width of the sidewalk downtown, you were allowed to project a sign out into the right-of-way. I believe some of those signs are still with us. There is an issue when people want to reface those signs, and they're out of code compliance. The cost to replace that non-conforming sign makes them keep what they have. So whether it may be unsightly or damaged, a repaired sign looks way worse than a brand new sign. So I think there probably should be some flexibility there, and that's what we give the downtown currently, is flexibility of reusing that existing sign, whether it's refacing of that sign.
I'm just thinking of an example, like the sign that's on the rock, that projects out that one. That would get damaged. They would not be able to replace that with a new sign that looks the same that projects out under this code. Is that correct?
You can have a projecting sign as long as it's not on the state highway. So a state right-of-way, so along Villard and along the Highway 22 corridor. There's some standards that we've come aware of that affects our funding. And so you can have projecting signs in the rest of the area. So that particular sign, I'm not familiar with how far it sticks out, but I don't think it sticks out more than
Well, we did a little research and working with Steve as far as the height off the public sidewalk. We went downtown and found, I think, the lowest one to see what that, or to create an average. I believe it turned out to be 8 feet now.
8 foot clearance, yes.
So again, this is a work session, so based on comments today, there is some work to be done, or I think our current code doesn't allow projecting signs downtown.
No, it doesn't allow projecting. I will.
With the
We did change that.
With the
We changed that a
realization
while
of that,
ago.
so we do have to make some choices here to actually change that, so we allow them.
That was amended a while ago. So projecting signs are permitted. It's 4 feet out, 8 foot clear, and this adds that clarity. So, yeah, there was, the code was done in 2013, and it prohibited projecting signs downtown. And it's like, no, that, when you see something in the code that doesn't work, you go back and change it. So that was changed. But this gives some clarity, as to how far out they would project, and also what the minimum clearance would be. So it's 4 feet, which is what's currently in the code, how far out it could project, and then having that clearance of minimum of 8 feet is in there, and we've worked with the building department on that.
And just the further add-on, if that 4 feet, this board doesn't feel that 4 feet is enough, past codes were dependent on the width of that sidewalk, whether or not we put that formula back in it. Whether it's a 6-foot sidewalk, 12-foot sidewalk, if we want to project more than what the code would allow.
I don't think we can project at all in the public right-of-way. I think it's very similar to Villard in that they don't allow projections into their right-of-way, the state. So that's why Villard doesn't allow it either. So we've gone through that process, I believe, with the last project.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they relaxed that?
Well, in order to address the signs that were already in existence along Villard with our last project with the DOT, we had to retroactively permit a lot of those encroachments. And so it wasn't just signs, stairways, all different
awnings,
things.
yeah.
And so they allowed us to permit those, grandfather them in, however you want to address it. But they really don't want anything encroaching in public right away. That's the direction that they shared with us. So that's where that piece is coming from.
So going forward, they would like us not to permit any
encroachments.
Okay.
In many instances, especially on Long Villard.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anyone? Staff, anything else?
What's the next step with this?
Any additional changes, comments, and then we'd schedule it for a public hearing. Public hearing. I will visit with Mr. Winningham and get his interest on it.
Yeah, I don't want us to, I want us to work with the downtown people. I mean, some of these old signs, I mean, I'd hate to see them go away because we're adopting new code and all of a sudden we have every sign downtown is non-conforming, and if they want to put new lights in it or something, it's an issue, so, or repair it, or.
And there's a way to put that language in, which is anything before the change in code was adopted is still conforming. Anything after that point would be subject.
I might understand
and
if they
then you
want.
could have like a damage, what you consider to be destroyed or whatever, just like you would for a structure.
Sure.
So it wouldn't be suddenly you pass this and all these people are suddenly non-compliant. You recognize, you don't want to jeopardize, that's the way zoning codes work, and is you don't want to suddenly turn everything non-compliant because they were doing something the way they understood it and the way it was written before, so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like that might be something that we want to include.
And
does the board concur with that? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
And perhaps this is something that we want to go to the downtown association, and for the section on downtown signs and share that with them.
I'm good with that. You guys are?
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else? Not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.